All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to X's for Show, your premier media response show. I am Nico. You guys can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICO ACTION.
I'm TK. You can find me at TK Accidental.
And that makes me your producer, KEVO. You can find me at KEVO Really. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so we know what you want us to cover in the future. But yeah, we're talking all things Doctor Who. And I'm really excited to be back talking about Doctor Who with you guys. The fandom's not really a super fun place, but we always have fun here. And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the heart of Doctor Who is about the idea of taking care of people, evolving, looking at history, looking at the future. Like, it's supposed to be like big in scope and considered and thoughtful. And I just don't feel like fandom is a place that is often built for considered and thoughtful. So, it's always just a train wreck waiting for a stop to happen. So
there's that aspect of things. And I guess what really surprises me is I had a tough reaction to last season, although upon reflecting, I thought there was a lot that was charming about it. But I loved this season so much, and that's kind of shouldn't be here nor there with what we're talking, because we're essentially saying, like it or not, you shouldn't be a toxic fan is ultimately the point. You should be able to get through a season of a show that you didn't enjoy and not have it just be malarkey spewing out of your mouth at all times. But setting that aside, I'm surprised that there is so much of that, because I just thought this was such a fantastic season, basically all the way through, and I really enjoyed it so much that I'm just sort of bewildered by that reaction on a few levels.
I get elements of it, and I think part of it is that we need to be having a lot of conversations about what fandom canon matter, I think, and what right there is to an outrage over something like a story rewriting canon. Like, this isn't actual religion. This is fiction. These are actors. These are stories that were written during eras where a lot of writers were on a lot of cocaine. So, television is wacky, and, this isn't actual biblical stuff. So we really need to start having these conversations. We talked about it on our last comics broadcast. I brought it up where, Marvel Comics, we talk about that every week, and that's been around for 60 plus years. There's been decades and hundreds of stories. Stuff is going to conflict sometimes. Stuff is going to have to overwrite other stuff if you want to tell new stories. It's just unavoidable, I guess.
I also feel like, separate from, the conversation of fandom, because that is really valid. I just really also think that there is such a problem where, like, your version of expectation plays a complicated relationship with things, right? Because, like, I wound up not liking Florence and the Machine after 2 or 3 records, because I thought every record sounded like the exact same record with this year's producer. And that just was not my shit. And I couldn't do it. I specifically will drop artists because they get too different. So you can't make me happy. And that's me in music. And, like, I understand that, like, Doctor Who as a show, it's changing the lead in the musical. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about different performances, Glenn Close's, Nora Desmond is totally different than Nicole Scherzinger's Nora Desmond. They're not the same character at all. And so I feel like with the Doctor, you're kind of talking about the same thing, like, where the iteration is wildly different, but, like, it's not that different. And, like, every time they meet each other, I'm like, no, you're clearly siblings. You stop that, because you're all the same.
And I think that is one of the charming things about the show's desire to have its cake and eat it too. They are obviously, of course, different actors and different people, and there are really times where it feels like it is not the same person. It is in the same way that Aang is not Korra, is not Yang Chen,
Right.
is not Roku, but. And, like, there's a really cool way in which it feels like that. Like, the way Matt Smith is going to act in a different situation is different than the way Jodie Whittaker is going to act in a particular situation. But the show also is pretty clear to take time, as in exactly what we have screen capped here, to say, like, actually, no, in fact, this is the same person. They have all the same memories. They have all the same motivations. They skew differently in the regenerations, but they are the same person. And I think it is, because it is a space fantasy show, that's the perfect place to have your cake and eat it too. You know, it is the perfect place to be able to mold those lines a little bit and be able to say, like, this is the same guy. He's, you know, this person has the same heart. And when somebody says, okay, but why is he having this really intense reaction when he's played by David Tennant, but then in that exact same situation when played by Peter Capaldi, he's just kind of chilling? And you say, oh, well, it's because it's two different guys.
Well,
so,
and I think for me, part of it is even like different doctors will be intense at different times. Jodie was specifically a doctor that was generally very chill and at least delivered her intensity differently. She wasn't a shouter, but she was an emoter, and I felt like she did get a lot of that intensity across. My litmus is usually, I try to think about if I could picture whatever doctor dialogue is being delivered by another doctor. You don't think about, you know, how would they say it the exact same way? You think, how would 10 say something like this? And I feel like I've never really been let down by that litmus of trying to evaluate a doctor's performance. And, you know, I don't get people who excessively scrutinize the doctor performance either, because I'll hear, you know, someone give a reaction to Jodie or to Shooty that they would absolutely give a pass on when it comes to Peter Capaldi or David Tennant in the weirdest ways. And that is where it's hard to feel like the reaction doesn't come from somewhere else. Like, I heard people reacting to this finale with Shooty with the gun, with the firing Omega back into hell. And it's like, and people said, that's not the doctor, that's too violent. But like, I think of David Tennant's last story, The End of Time, where he's casting Rassilon back into hell, or the time that he put the family of Blood in chains, or the time that Matt Smith's doctor picked up an actual gun and was like, maybe I like guns. That literally happened. So like, doctors do have those different experiences, and it sometimes felt like these two specifically got scrutinized for things others have not.
And part of that, I think, goes to the place where fandom has a weird relationship with after peak. I think fandom is so hard on post peak stuff. When something is that moment where, oh, it's kind of the bloom off the rose. I believe that by the end of Matt Smith's tenure, Doctor Who was no longer a powerhouse. Like,
I completely agree. Day of the Doctor was peak.
And there is even, like, people will say, oh, but you can look at the numbers, it was still peak. I'm also talking about cultural cachet. How much do kids that are now buying toys, which is a huge part of how this show stays on the air, how much do they still think it's cool? And by the end of the Matt Smith run, having an old man next was not the move. I adore 12, but like, we really stopped courting kids. And that's good. That's great. I'm into it. But like, that in and of itself changes the Doctors, because like Chris Eccleston is a great children's actor. Like, he's also a fantastic actor, but like, he's a great children's actor. And so his over-the-top exaggerations, like when you guys were like, Tennant reacts severe, I'm like, oh, Tennant, to me, like, he's reserved compared to 9. I think 9 is always screaming, and like, I can't stand 9. I can't stand 9 or 11. Like, neither one of them is for me. Really brought that one down. But I love...
That was a very British joke, so it's appropriate for this broadcast, I guess.
You know. Freedom. So I feel like the other thing that really affects who the Doctor is what is the show working toward at that point. When it's working toward kid endeavors, it's goofier. So the Doctor's goofier. when it's working toward more adult endeavors, the Doctor's going for BAFTAs. You know.
And I do think one thing you're really right about in terms of Peak and 11 is I think they made the choice to follow the young people that were growing up, who were kids when it started with Eccleston, were kids in 2005, and then grew up with the show and kind of made it their, like, they were the nerds who like made it their high school and college personality too. And it got a little more for all ages and a little more willing to appeal to somebody who was, you know, maybe more like 18 to 25 rather than, you know, 8 to 15, because those 8 to 15-year-olds had grown up and were still watching the show. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is definitely a strategy. It's actually something that I think American shows don't do enough. They just keep resetting for the next group of kids and sort of not really providing anything to people who are older and would still be interested. But it does put the show in complicated places sometimes.
And I really agree. You know, I had said on our coverage last year when I watched the Tales of the TARDIS, which was the 6 episodes of classic that were bookended with new material for featuring classic actors, one specifically featuring actors from Sarah Jane Adventures, which was great. And so I've been watching more classic that they provide on YouTube, which so thankful for that service. Thank you, BBC. That's such the way to do it, because yeah, that's the people who want classic, it seems, just want classic. It doesn't matter that how much more I watch classic, it's really, really, really corny. Mm-hmm. I am not being insulting. I love corny stuff. I love old stuff. I grew up on Mystery Science Theater, so I was actually genuinely half watching a lot of the movies that they would lampoon. We grew up on stuff like Power Rangers. Like, we're not saying that there isn't beauty to be found in stuff that is corny, but when I hear the new era compared as though it is so below anything that was ever made in classic, like, we were watching some clips of Omega from classic earlier, and it's just hammy, really weird costumes, Casio keyboard music, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying that, but like, they're not literally going to make that sort of sci-fi anymore. First of all, it's just not how television is made. But you know, television also just needs to keep evolving, and that's part of what it's trying to do here. Are there ways that I feel this maybe sometimes misses the mark? Obviously, yeah. You know, I'm not trying to say it's perfect, but I do see so many strains of classic and original Doctor Who throughout this still, and so I'm always baffled by people who say there's nothing there.
I really also can't believe that we're having such a conversation about the bitchiness of fandom. Like, I wish we could just talk about the show, because like, there's a lot to talk about here. In part because like, I love it when a writer is like, this is where I started and this is where I'm ending, and we're gonna get there. It's a beautiful road in between. It's gonna be a linear path, baby, and then we get there. There's a lot of speculations about just how intentional this ending was, and I like the ending fine. I think really cool things about it. I don't understand how this is the end of the second series that followed the specials. That I don't get. I don't think this feels conclusive to an idea of a Doctor in any way. It's a cool way to end a second series vibe, but I don't there was no journey. He's just so fabulous all the time. Fucking best hair, best outfits, killing it, daddy. But like,
Well, what do you have something already, Teak?
Yeah, I mean, I like Eccleston, but that's how Eccleston's run ends. And at the time, I started with Eccleston's run and went through the whole show. So at the time, I was like, oh, I know they just regenerate, so that's just a thing. But then Tennant's really early on has sort of a promise of where he ends is going to kind of relate to where he began, and it will be a complete arc. And it is exactly, he will knock 4 times, the beep 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 beep, the Bad Wolf anthem, all of those things are right there at the beginning, and they all kind of have a reason and a resolution that ties to his very last moments. And it's the same thing with Matt Smith. Like, his arc kind of it sort of goes all over the place, but it is ultimately always leading up to the moment where he is on Trenzalore and then ages forever and then dies and regenerates. And then Capaldi and Whitaker, it's less intentional than with Russell T Davies, but it is sort of like they're all really a package deal, and there's always stuff at the beginning that sort of seeds why the Doctor never continues indefinitely, why there's always basically, we're always going towards the next regeneration, in terms of plot, as well as the fact that we just always know it's going to happen. And so, yeah, this feels like the first time since Eccleston where it's just like there were a lot of seeds planted, and those all still could be something, but they felt like they were planted to eventually get to the Doctor having a moment where where ultimately it leads to his regeneration, and basically none of them had to do with that. And so it was pretty jarring. I guess like my only big takeaway is I'm glad he got what I feel is at least one basically perfect season, a really, really high end season, if not perfect, because there are some not perfect episodes. But like with Doctor Who, having a really great season is kind of all I need. Again, I think about Eccleston because I like that season. I'm happy he had the one, and then he was done. This guy, Ncuti got 2. The first one I don't think was great, but this one was so good. And I'm glad that he just left. We didn't do, he didn't do 2 more that weren't great. We didn't do a bunch of movies that weren't great. I would have rather he got a really clear arc and regeneration, but this is like a better consolation prize to having him have a bad arc that went on too long and that nobody was happy with.
And I love all of that. And I love you bringing up Matt Smith, because something that I have never really delved into or studied or tried to actually corroborate, but that I've long felt, is that I do think Matt Smith left significantly more early than he was supposed to. It always felt like there's supposed to be at least one season after the Day of the Doctor, because it ending with I have to find Gallifrey, and then the next episode I find Gallifrey did not feel right. And a lot of people have said, yeah, he was sad. He missed Karen and Arthur and didn't want to play anymore. And so he wanted to move on. And, I think about that. I think about, there is a lot of speculation that Disney was dragging its feet, and that meant there was no renewal at all without Disney renewing, so Ncuti didn't want to stay. That's life is something too. I don't begrudge anyone in this situation. I don't begrudge Disney not being sure about an untested property, because I, even while getting material for this episode, looked back and saw the Disney Plus copy of the teaser for this season from Christmas, and it had not even cracked like 200,000 views. It wasn't getting the hits that they wanted. It sucks that meant that Doctor Who's future was tied to that, but I think people need to recognize more that stuff like this is a business, and Disney can't just renew. Like, that's not feasible for them. And so I don't blame Shooty if he left before he was supposed to, if this was meant to be a longer arc. I more have questions about what happens to the rest of the potential story that we've been leaning toward. I can say what the story was that is the leaked, rumored, actual ending before Shooty left. But it addressed the fact that there are still things left ended. And, I wonder, is that going to be addressed now through something else that gets picked up? Is that story now going to have to be abandoned the way a season-long search for Gallifrey or longer was abandoned so that it could be Matt Smith's story and it had to be the very next one? It's really hard to say, and it's disappointing as a fan of the art to feel like story had to be compromised. But there is also the awareness that this has happened before, and it's just something that happens when you make television.
I think the thing that stands out for me here is I really agree. I actually think that original ending was the original ending. And I think that this was meant to be a Christmas special. This little tag from the fact that it goes, joy to the world.
Well, because it's joy from Christmas, but yeah.
But that's even I feel like this was meant to be a Christmas special. There was meant to be a whole episode that he just said, you know what? I really like that last scene that I already wrote. I'm just going to use it real quick. And kind of be a special. That's a comics thing. You plan for a big final 12 issue series and then you get an annual. And this was that. The thing that really I am bugged by the fact that so when 13 shows up, I'm so sorry. When 13 shows up, I'm so sorry. It seems impossible. Let me say it one more time. When 13 showed up, I was like, what? She's the only doctor with as few episodes as 9 and 15. And then I'm like, oh, wait, never mind. 14 has no episodes. Oh, wait, the War Doctor has no episodes. Oh, wait, 12 technically has barely any episodes. Got it. The thing that 13 reminded me by being here is that we're actually living in an era of fallen eras. Everybody keeps being oh, 143 is Katy Perry's flop era. You idiots, you gay idiots. Everything after Teenage Dream has been her flop era. Okay? We're just finding new eras to flop on. We are finding new sub-basements under this woman's all-time low. Okay? And so I feel like we thought that 12 was the bastard doctor. Then we thought that 13 was the bastard doctor. I'm sorry, 14 is the bastard doctor. And now 15 is the bastard doctor.
Yeah.
Good job, everybody. It's just a whole lot of Dr. Bar Sinisters.
I will say I did absolutely love this scene, though. I have this is this was just incredibly moving and beautiful to me. And again, I think it speaks to that idea of none of the other doctors would say I love you to a doctor, and they're often kind of mean to each other, which I always hate. But this one specifically yells out to 13 that he loves her. What?
And I just want to say, he didn't say I love you, but that's even something that not at you, but people who are that I hear say 10 told 5 he was his favorite doctor. In Time Crash, a Children in Need special, and not at you. Because, we're talking about seeing the evolution, because I don't think he said, I love you. But he said to the 5th Doctor, you were my doctor. And then he married the guy's daughter, by the way. But, it's not something the Doctor is always incapable of. And I loved this, too, because I loved 13 being we're always kind of stupid. We're always kind of struggling. It's great to see that that's still in me.
Yeah. I mean, Matt Smith and David Tennant had a great buddy thing going on, but they also, a lot of it was the trope, and it's it's the same thing. I don't like that Miles and Julian can't ever stop and just say, hey, you are my best friend and I love you on Deep Space Nine. They are best friends and they spend so much time together, but they constantly go back to the refrain of like, you like, I'm just so sick of you. And I know but it's like straight men can never say that they love each other. And the Doctor can never just say like, hey, you wounded child, I across time and space see you. And so to have it happen in this moment, I just thought it was very beautiful. I don't know what the planned ending, the rumored planned ending was. What was it?
So and that's the thing, I have not really found yet exactly how much was changed. Like, I don't know if Jodie was always going to be in this episode or if she is something that was added as an extra bonus for the fact that this was a regeneration ultimately. But there is, let me find the image that I have, because that's part of the thing. There's a leaked image specifically because of Disney Plus that showed an alternate scene of Belinda and the Doctor celebrating.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you can almost kind of see, it looks like it says Happy May Day in the background, and the Blinks was supposed to be acting as the DJ, and then in the corner was supposed to be Susan in a gray trench coat, which was a nod to her look in the Fifth Doctor special from the Five Doctor special from back in the 90s. And she looks down and she's holding Poppy's hand and she says, "Let's go, Mom." And they leave together. That is what a very has been accepted as having this leaker knew about Billy before it happened. So it is a very trustworthy source that is saying this is what was supposed to happen instead. And so I don't know, because I feel like so much of the scene, which I really loved, of them with Poppy and the TARDIS and the passing back and forth of the jacket as it got smaller, I thought that was so clever and well done that I really feel like so much of that had to have happened. And I think the only thing that changed was it took a regeneration, because the only confirmed reshoot we have is the stuff from the house with the backyard and the baby, and because her being human, it kind of does feel weird.
Yeah, and it did, like, it. They don't really even have an explanation, because they don't have an explanation for why after he does everything that he does, he winds up in a shifted reality where he is not her father and somebody else. Like, that's the whole point of him going. Baby. Yeah. So that would make a lot of sense to me. And it seemed like Jodie was supposed to be there. It just like, you do feel a notable vibe shift when he is in the grass.
Like when Anita says the boss, when the boss came up again.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing this, but like, oh, Susan Foreman. Foreman is another word for boss. Russell T. Davis loves puns. So now I'm like, is the boss going to be resolved? Is it still going to be Susan Foreman?
That was another one where I was like, the they of it all. It's
vague on purpose.
Is that a singular they, or is the boss a they? Like, is it two people? And I was hoping, when I thought about it, I would have said it management rather than the boss, because management can be one person or management can be a team. But yeah, I was also like, the amount of Susan felt very important. And then for there to be nothing more about why he was seeing her or anything was happening with her, also just felt really out of nowhere. But that was also my, immediately I was like, well, if that's his daughter, is that Susan's mother?
Yeah. So like, what's going to happen? Are we abandoning that story? That story also feels kind of weird.
I mean, yeah. there's also all the stuff about how they're sterile, which
that was like, people are saying that is unwriting the Timeless Child, that a lot of this was unwriting the Timeless Child and what the Master did, but I don't know that that's true. I think for one thing, Ronnie didn't know some of it.
Isn't it specifically supporting the time? Because they're saying that after it's just the two of them are sterile because they're the only two left. It's not that the Time Lords were sterile, but that's also very confusing. It was very confusing, and I was like, why are we talking about sterility this late in the game? Like, of all the ways this show has gone round the long way for an explanation for why a particular storyline is happening, it just felt so odd to get into Time Lords. Like, I would have just totally accepted her being like, I'm not having a baby with the Doctor. Like, no, I need to do this because I'm not gonna have a baby with the Doctor. Like, I'm a scientist. Don't ask me to give up my Time Lord eggs to do this. I'm gonna do it my way. And I thought that, like, if she had just said that would have been a much clearer explanation, or like a obvious explanation than the Time Lords are sterile, but it appears to be because of the genetic bomb, and they're the only survivors of that. So it's just really the two of them that are sterile.
I don't know.
I
feel like some of it was vague on purpose because Russell doesn't like the way she was like, her answer being, I switched my biology and did a little flip, and like,
yeah,
he loves being poetic over giving too many answers, because in that regard, yeah, giving too many answers means that you are stuck with those answers sometimes. Like, I feel like you're kind of stuck here, and that's disappointing because I loved this Ronnie, and so I don't know that we'll ever see her again. I at least appreciated that they gave this little moment to Mrs. Flood. If you were not already aware, I'm not even bringing up an image. The two Ronnies was, I believe, some kind of talk show or something back in the 80s. These two old men with glasses. RONNIES.
So they're being cute.
So much for the two Ronnies, and "It's a Good Night" for me was a line from the show. That was, I guess, a sign off. I refuse to look further into it because I don't want to indulge Russell's pun. Come on, Grandpa. You're not my dad anymore. You're Grandpa now.
I will, while we're on the subject of her, this was one of my like 3 really big disappointments of the season. This sort of had me wondering about the direction the show, this Doctor's arc was supposed to go in entirely, because, and I said this to you guys, as soon as in that first episode, Mrs. Flood breaks the fourth wall, my thinking is she's somehow connected to the Pantheon and this is her power, because nobody in Doctor Who breaks the fourth wall really. And the fact that she does it repeatedly, when you have Jinx being, the god of music, when we keep bringing up these gods who have really specific powers that are kind of related to the structure of the Doctor Who universe, and you have this one that breaks the fourth wall, which nobody else ever does, my thinking the entire time was that she was going to, that was going to be her. She was going to be one of the gods, and her power was going to be, they would say she could do like break the fourth dimension, but as it comes out, it's breaking the fourth wall. And then to just have her be the Ron, like, I liked that the Ronnie came back, and I really liked Archie Punjab. But I felt like this felt like it was going to be a bigger thing, and then she just turned out to be the Ronnie. And so it kind of made me feel like I don't really even know when the rewrites or the plans to change things started. Or go ahead.
I only want to say that that's like saying I kept thinking this was going to be a big thing, and then it turned out only to be Cassandra Nova. Like, I appreciate not getting the gravity, but people have been thinking that every bad guy since series 3 was secretly the Ronnie.
Yeah, and I was one of those people.
She's like, pinnacle bad guy.
Yeah, no, it's specifically this lady being that character when, again, for me, it's the fourth wall breaking, because it's not just out of character, it's out of like what anybody on the show does. And we do see all of these people who have powers that nobody else has had before. And so it's not even so much. I just thought it was a waste of what they were doing with the character, I guess, or it was confusing to me.
Yeah, especially when she kind of feels like a longer payoff than a lot of the other things this season. It's a little tough. I also was kind of surprised that we saw Joe again, we saw 13 again, but we never saw 14 again. And she started right around that 14 time, so it even kind of felt like there was meant to be 2 doctors versus 2 Ronnies.
Yeah,
and there wasn't.
Yeah.
So
yes, having Rose be in the mix, but not seeing, the idea that Catherine Tate and David Tennant's characters wouldn't be all up in whatever was happening here. What?
Well, and I part of me agrees. I always want to see them, but I also understand we can't literally just pull these actors out of our pockets.
Yeah, of course.
My bigger problem, and here we go. Here she is. It's literally the same outfit she wore last year. Did that come out?
Yes.
They aren't giving the character a new outfit. That's bizarre. I find that more bizarre than anything else. It feels like they literally put Rose Noble in a closet like a robot, not like a, anti-queer thing, but like a mop. Like they put her in the closet exactly as she was. And okay, come on out, Rosie, it's time again. Didn't change a thing. Not different hair, not even a different color sweater. Nothing. That's the most thing where I'm like, there are parts of this that I feel very strangely on.
I just want to say thank you so much, Rose Kirby, for coming in and both representing a Doctor Who companion and the world's most powerful pink puffball. Sorry, Jigglypuff. Rose Kirby echoing Kevo's thoughts on the last 5 minutes being changed. Further elaborating the 2 Ronnies were Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett. It's a good night for me, and it's a good night from him. That was a joke. And then, isn't the Ronnie a Time Lord and can regenerate? Hasn't she got her Sonic with her? Couldn't she still be alive? Yeah. I'm of the mindset that the Master is basically a cat o' nine tails, and somewhere out there is a very impressive hilt with some very sexy rope coming out of it. And I desperately need this. Not to
this, I'm gonna be so mad. I already have my 15th Doctor. I like his
and you have my laser screwdriver too, because I'm a obsessed Master fan. Master is my favorite, and I have a laser screwdriver because I'm gross.
I loved this thing. I thought it was so cute. I imagine it's going away right away. I imagine we're immediately going back to the old design, and that's part of what the Ronnie is. I love
not necessarily.
I don't like the toy because it activates if you just open it the littlest bit, and it's kind of flimsy. But literally, other than that, it's fun. I like the different design. I like something a little bit more Palm Pilot-y.
Yeah,
like it should be something that's more like a Sonic kit than a screwdriver. That's not applicable to all situations anyway. I hope they sell this though.
Nico, who's your favorite Master?
So it's tough because obviously Mistress is Mary Poppins, literally. Yeah. But John Sim is the dad that I would have been fine with touching me. So it
God damn it, why did you have to say that?
I remember what I was going to say, so I can move on from what he said.
Hey, hold on.
I said yours. All about love.
My what? Favorite
Who's
Master?
Your favorite Master? Yeah.
Definitely Missy. I find John Sim very, very, very handsome, but I do not like John Sim's Master's Tude, and I would not have been as okay with him touching me, and I would have reported him to Missy Master, and she would have had his balls.
Neither one of you for Sasha Dewan, huh?
Ooh, I genuinely feel like Sasha Dewan was such a weird thing to do that I always forget he existed.
He's remarkable, and he does a remarkable job in the role, but what he is written to be just manic insanity. There isn't a lot of character there. There's a lot of great performance, but there's not a lot of character for me.
The thing about the Ronnie and regenerating and the fact that Mrs. Flood is the one who escaped. I assume this Ronnie is eaten, but who knows? Again, people can come back. I like Mrs. Flood escaping. We don't really understand what Russell is doing with regeneration, and I think that is really cool. And that's one of the things that I find at least fascinating about this Billy Piper choice is, you know, regeneration was introduced in 1966 as an excuse not to end the show with William Hartnell. And people love to point to any different point in Doctor Who from 1963 to 1989 to say, well, at that point they decided and nothing can ever change. Except in 1966, they decided on regeneration. And I really appreciate the thing that Russell seems to be doing the most with this comeback is kind of challenging the idea of regeneration in the first place. Because that's the really biggest frontier that I think they didn't do anything with. Moffat came up with the reason that there's more regenerations and it's wibbly, timey-wimey, they're gifted to him. And then
Chibnall, thank goodness, even Moffat had something to say, and now we all get to benefit.
And then Chibnall came up with, oh, but instead it's deeper and immortal, and it's deeper and wider lore. And instead Russell is like, why the fuck are we being precious about what regeneration is in the first place? In Day of the Doctor, we had Tom Baker. We assumed that was going to be like thousands and millions of years in the future. But fuck, why aren't we doing something random like this sooner? Like, this is supposed to be fun.
I agree, but then also Moffat came up with there's a reason why Peter Capaldi looks like that when he regenerates into Peter Capaldi, which I hated. That's just such a minor character. It would be like Marvel addressing why Gemma Chan the Eternal looks like Gemma Chan the Kree,
or almost like addressing why Poppy looks like Poppy and has the same name as Poppy.
Yeah. Really,
is it
truly.
Someone's based on production? Like,
yeah,
that had to have been his sister's baby or something.
I mean, those are like, for me, those are two opposite things. I would have just gotten a different baby. And I cannot imagine why they had to use the same baby and then had such a bad explanation for it. But
then she was older in the reshoots too. So what's going on?
But then, I don't, I think it was very good that Marvel never said anything about Gemma Chan being two people in the Marvel universe, and never should. And that applies to very few other people, but they don't ever talk about it. And it's just like that one episode where they're at Pompeii and Peter Capaldi is in it is just not a memorable enough episode of Doctor Who for...
Well, if you close your eyes.
I love that one, but
it's a great episode, don't get me wrong, but like that's not a character that matters. There's nothing about that episode that is important enough to Doctor Who continuity that they needed to have a whole explanation.
Well, do you know about Colin Baker and what happened with him? The Sixth Doctor was on Doctor Who before he was the Doctor. He played a Time Lord and never addressed.
Right.
Why did it need to be addressed?
Yeah. So then that established, because the thing about the trouble I have with Doctor Who is that it's 2005 and onward lore is sort of interconnected and referenced a lot more. And sort of I'm okay with kind of letting, because it's their explanations of what's happening obviously scientifically are nonsense. It's a very fantasy show. So I'm not as beholden to lore and explanations being consistent with this show, but they did sort of invest a lot in saying it mattered why Peter. Oh, hello there. Peter Capaldi regenerated into that look, and it then mattered why Jodie regenerated into David Tennant. And I just, to so regularly have it be a bit of a stunt regeneration is for me the part that I'm just like, this distracts us a little bit from going on the rails for a while. Like, it seems like we're stopping at a station to do these moments too often rather than just letting things run.
I don't even disagree with not loving it, but I just feel like, so many people are like, oh, Doctor Who's gone wrong. Like, it happened so suddenly, but I feel like so many of the things we're pointing to is like, it's already gone wrong at so many points along the way that this is just a pileup of everything, to the point where you're kind of like, was it ever right? Because like, maybe you just shouldn't have cast Peter Capaldi. Like, he was going to cast a female Doctor, but then Peter Capaldi was available. Was that fucking necessary? What?
This is necessary. Okay, Rose Kirby, I want to say thank you for assuming we're going to review all of The Land and Sea.
Yeah.
I love that you think we're going all in on this, because we are. But
no, I will. It's Kate.
We are, because Kate is my soft spot.
Kate is
like my
Ibrahim. Oh my god.
That's totally. And so I love that you said that. But let's watch the first one and let you know how Russell it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a thing. A lot of times we aspire to do a week by week on a show, and then we watch the first episode of the show and we talk in the group chat and we're like, we're gonna catch up and we'll talk about it at the end, or like we'll do a midway talk and we'll do a end of the season talk, because just some shows are not worth the every day.
We promise we'll have a reaction.
Deeply. Yeah,
we'll have something to say, I'm sure.
And I do want to say, like, I don't think the Rose thing is bad. I was the Billy Piper thing, because I don't want to call it the Rose thing, because I don't know who we're looking at, which is cool. I don't. That's not a bad thing. I don't know that it serves the show the best, and I think that's more my thing. Is I don't know that doing stunt regenerations serves the momentum of the show, especially when they ostensibly rebooted it in 2023. I don't know that stopping for another stunt regeneration, and I guess one of the big tells will be if this is just the face of the Doctor, or if this is a thing that happened, like if this is a 3 episode stopover before
and what that means too. Yeah.
And again, that's not that won't necessarily even be a bad thing if it's a 3 episode stopover, but it won't necessarily be the thing that serves the show the best. And so I will be interested to see. I love Billy Piper so much. I was actually really disappointed that she played the weapon in Name of the Doctor or Time of the Doctor.
Day of the Doctor.
Is Day?
It was a trilogy.
Okay.
It was Name, then Day, then Time.
Which is order. The one? Is it?
Day was in the middle.
Okay,
that's where she was the moment. That was the 50th. Okay. That was the moment that broke the franchise. Really.
Okay. I was just bummed that she wasn't playing Rose. And yeah. And
I wasn't the clingy girlfriend. I'm kidding. I'm mocking Stephen Moffat.
And I'll be a little bummed if this isn't Rose too, but also like I really won't be. Like they can't necessarily do anything where I'm like, this is bad. They'll do stuff where I will say, I don't know if this is going to serve the best interest of this show continuing to be an institution and maybe even continuing to get produced. But I'm also not being paid to worry about that, so I don't worry about it that much.
I think what?
Come on.
Are you ready? Come on.
No, it's too stupid.
Okay.
I was thinking about the fact that if she plays 3 different characters, Rose, the moment, and a third character, Billie Piper is really unique. And somehow that got me thinking about, like, I can't explain it, guys. I was like, you know who else is really unique? Rose Nyland. And then I realized for the first time ever, Dorothy only tells stories about Brooklyn and Sophia only tells stories about Sicily, so they don't overlap. And that's something that Doctor Who actually also seeks to do with its companions. Even when companions share doctors, they're very careful to claim their portion. Mel going out of her way to take ownership of the Omega stories, which, by the way, not just a sound effect from Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, it's how they said it. Oh, it's so annoying to watch. Omega. Oh my God.
So fascinating to realize that someone like Billie Piper's value to Doctor Who's linear legacy is so significant that you can pinpoint characters from within her timeline carefully enough that you can say she's from that era of Billie Piper when she was Rose, that era of Billie Piper when she was the Moment, and you could literally avoid having people overlap stories, so you would never have a two Brooklyns situation.
I want to go to the top of your point. That actually
go anywhere in my point. It's very verse.
I love you pointing out that she could be playing all these different characters, because then she actually really does mirror David Tennant, who played the 10th Doctor, the Meta-Crisis Doctor, the 14th Doctor. Like, he's also played so many characters.
It's spectacular.
I really hope this is Rose, and I specifically want to see Rose back because I want to see Rose and the Meta-Crisis Doctor. Let's bring back David Tennant's other character. Fuck 14. What's going on with the Meta-Crisis Doctor? Let's check in with that. Let's use that to bring Rose back. But I would also love to see Rose as the Doctor. I think one of the biggest things this show is suffering from right now, though, is Russell T. Davis's ADHD. He did David and Catherine because during lockdown, they did this Doctor Who lockdown stuff where they did special watch-alongs, and David and Catherine were involved in some stuff, and he was like, I'd love to write for them again. I think he probably saw the interview with Chris Eccleston at the beginning of his era, where Chris Eccleston was asked who should be the next Doctor, and Chris Eccleston said, Billie Piper.
Billie Piper.
She would kill it. And not only that, but fuck you nerds and all your feelings about canon. That would really trample over all of that stuff you're always saying about, oh, it can't be. Why not? Screw that. Make it Billie Piper.
But
and
never let a woman play the character, right?
I do think that's why. That's where Russell got the idea. And I feel like so many things he's done in this era are ADHD things where he's been like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me just do it.
Slow down, Buttercup. I like that the show has flexible enough continuity and universal laws to allow for that. Yeah.
Yes.
I really do like that. I don't like how sometimes Russell doesn't write into it. Like, you have literally there's no ceiling, there's no floor. You can write whatever you want as the explanation, but it should be good. And I do think that is something that Moffat did a little bit better than Davies, is his explanations within the scope of this universe where there are basically no real rules. His explanations were better, and they had a little more poetry to them, and they made the episodes beautiful. And sometimes in a Davis episode, you'll be like, that is just again, like, I point to the sterility and I'm like, that's just so clunky and awkward. And we just spent way too much time talking about whether these two should make a baby when there's also already a baby in the mix, and that baby is confusing because it looks like another baby, and he didn't write a good explanation for why the one baby looks like the other baby.
For the fact that this looks like Avengers Tower, it all felt very Black Widow and Age of Ultron, and I don't understand, especially for a gay man, to have it be so much about babies.
Yeah, why are you talking about babies so much? Weird. Is your biological clock ticking, friend?
I want to just comment that you said that Moffat has more poetry than RTD, and you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that.
Oh, you're about to say something, aren't you?
No, but like I really see it, because like as a Bukowski and Elliot guy,
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, that poetry sucks. That poetry is like For me, Moffat is the Stephanie Meyer of Doctor Who. Everything is so flowery and like hyper personal in a way that I don't find accessible. My problem with 11 isn't that he is like a giant man child. My problem with 11 is that he seeks to tell me what's wrong with me and let me know that he'll make me better. And he acknowledges that he learned something along the way, but 11 doesn't seek to grow with me. 11 seeks to school me as a boy so that it's unconventional and charming, but I'm not charmed.
Oh, you froze. Or for me, you did.
You froze for me too, and I might just.
You said I'm not charmed
by a twink telling me what to do.
It's so funny. You just made 2 points. One that I just so completely disagree with, and one that I totally agree with. What you just said about Matt Smith's doctor and like him trying to school you, 100% could not agree with more. That is so correct, and I can see why it's absolutely annoying. And then right before that, you said that Moffat's really flowery. He's the Stephanie Meyer, and I feel like that's Davis. I feel like Davis is so flowery and so saccharine so much of the time, and that go for it, Kevo.
I think that actually makes Davis the J.K. Rowling, but politically politically opposite, and not in a good way, because politically opposite
not in a good way
also means stuff like you putting jetpacks in people's wheelchairs. That is just as weird and atheist, and I understand you think it's positive, but it's just as he's literally politically opposite J.K. Rowling. That is what it is.
And I absolutely see that, and I don't disagree. I just like, I think about so much of the explanations about what River was and what River was doing and where River was and why River exists and how, and again, it's all nonsense because it's Doctor Who, but within the nonsense of Doctor Who, I feel like it is very thought out and consistent and like methodical in its own way, and also like very dark and sad and disturbing. And I compare that to something like Poppy, and I'm just like, you just gave me 3 nonsense explanations for where babies come from, why babies exist, and why we can't have more babies. And I don't know.
But it still didn't have to be this baby. Like, if it was literally Shooty's baby, I'd be like, sure, I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I just realized it. What's the first canonical bi generation? The bi doctor? Got it. Oh my God, 15 is the bi generation.
That was when the first time they said it, I was like, oh, it's funny. Yeah, like,
oh God,
very tongue in cheek. And he's great Russell T Davies is great at that too. He's great at a cheeky little joke.
That is real bad at making him seem interested in women at all.
Yeah.
I didn't love that. He did the same thing to Captain Jack, and it actually pissed me off because I liked Captain Jack being omnisexual.
Captain Jack at least says some insanely inappropriate things to women too.
Still,
I agree. John Barrowman has said some absolutely insane things to women.
Both of them. I'm sure a lot of it was ad-libbing. But like, it was so weird to me that Anita was like, oh yeah, and when I saw you fucking the cold dead eyes of Jonathan Groff, I realized that it was never going to happen and I had a baby with somebody else.
Especially because that happened before you, Anita. Relax. That's before he met you.
And I was just like, there was no indication that they would be a thing, but also when I went back and reflected on it, like maybe there should have been, because he is not supposed to be just a gay man. And again, I just can't stress enough how cold and dead Jonathan Groff's eyes are, and he has no soul.
When gay men say fishy, they're referring to Jonathan Groff's eyes.
Yes.
Also, Rose Kirby, you're like my new motherfucking favorite.
Rose, you got it all.
Played Bad Wolf too.
Bad
Wolf.
Well, and then what is like, that's also been a thing that has always, I wanted them to go back to what exactly Bad Wolf is, because
Because she takes your atoms and she divides them, and that is quite literally one of my favorite lines of dialogue in television history.
Well,
I see
and
the of your atoms and I divide them.
She absorbs the heart of the TARDIS, but then like, is that also not what Saran Jones was playing?
Is that what that is?
And by the way, I miss nothing more than that character, and that it sucks that is fucking Neil Gaiman.
Guys, I wish that Fergie could be the first American Doctor. She's already got London Bridge. It's built right in.
I listen, I don't see that, but I do think that they should have Fergie on the show to perform London Bridge, which she has been doing recently.
Think it should just be a Time Lord?
Yes,
Well,
Fergie absolutely would be an amazing Ronnie. Do you think that Ronnie hasn't pissed herself on stage for the sake of science?
Okay, that's brilliant. But I think she's original. She's her own character. She's Risa Ronnie. She's like her own thing.
No, she's the Fergie. So
she's the Fergie. She's the Duchess.
Yeah, the Duchess. Yes, yep.
Oh my God, double Duchess dead.
This is a good show.
What is your feeling on the Time Lords and them and their existence in that? Because like that is for me something that bugs me about Russell, and he's just so obsessed with the line, "I'm the last of the Time
I'm the last of the Time Lords." I know. Although weirdly, he's not the one who killed them the second time.
Yeah.
I really want to bring the Time Lords back and not have them be a big bad, but a reflection of an empire that one would want to escape. You know, at this point, you could do it one of two ways. They could essentially be, because it's not Britain anymore, but like they could essentially be America, and the Doctor is an American traveling abroad. Like, please don't judge me by the place that I came from. I know these people are garbage, but like, I love where I come. Like, we all love where we come from. We love our hometown. And you know, we all just travel to Spain and are like, oh, I'm from Canada, because we don't want anybody to know we come from the fucking garbage people. Or they could be Britain today. They could be, we were this massive empire, and now we're not super relevant anymore. There's so many ways to do it, but I don't like seeing them be insane, super, like having zero morals whatsoever and nothing redeeming about them. I also want to see like the beautiful things that they do and make, that the Doctor is proud that he comes from this culture and he wants to take companions there and say, you wouldn't believe what my people have done. Man, they frustrate me because they also think they're smarter than everyone else, but they created literal universal healthcare.
I don't love being, I'm sorry, Kevin, you go.
No, go ahead.
I don't always love being American because that's where Kid Rock is from, but I love being New Jerseyan because that's where Michelle Visage is from. So you can understand, you can love things about your culture and not others.
Yeah.
I'm only so eager to agree because like I want literally everything you're describing. I want the Time Lords to be a source of antagonism still. You know, some of them should be, especially Time Lords specifically, but then there's just plain Gallifreyans. There's so many things that you could do. You could have colonies of people. Yeah, Time Lord is a designation. There's also just the regular people who don't get to time travel, who live on the planet. There's so many things you can and should be doing with that, like, race and species and planet and
you're saying there are gibblers in this Tanner house? That is insane.
Like, it's it's so wild. Go for it.
I would love an arc of the Doctor, like, training a little clutch of mini Time Lords in training. Yeah. Like, that would be an amazing story. Like, there are so many different types of Time Lord character you could be introducing. It feels wasteful.
And it's wild to me that there were entire seasons of classic Doctor Who where he is just on Gallifrey. And again, like, that's his home. And yeah, the idea that I don't need us to do an entire season, although we keep doing the same kind of seasons over and over again at this point. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do a whole season on Gallifrey. But like even a 2-episode arc and a season arc that has Gallifrey in it would be really, really cool. I get that Rassilon is often a really antagonistic presence. I mean, we have a shitty president, so like, sure, they can have a shitty president, but how many great people are there in that world, even if the president is shitty? I just there's so many different ways to go about it. Yeah, I mean, that was also kind of the bummer with the. Oh, Rose, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yes, happy Pride. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that was sort of my one bummer with the resolution of the Omega storyline, was that he actually did not bring the Time Lords back in any capacity. Also, that it just feels like they spent a lot of money on a large dude CGI model to make Suket, and they were like, we're using it again and just putting this like this decayed body skin on it because we paid for it and we're getting the most mileage out. Because like, I was so expecting we were gonna get campy, maybe stupid, but a really cool spin on his stupid look from classic Doctor Who, where he's got the weird helmet on, and
like, part of the entrance that's so weird. They barely tried.
KEVO, what are those aliens from Star Wars that I said that he looked like? From Attack of the Clone. No, from everybody pick on Jake Lloyd. Phantom Menace.
Like
Swift people.
Oh yeah, Gungan. You said
Gungans,
but also
no,
like
the underwater people.
The Gungans.
No, the other fish people. The other fish people that they're
say it again.
From the beginning of the film. It opens on these fish people, and they're not Gungans.
Wait, are you talking about the Trade Federation ones who have offensive Asian accents?
Yes. He looks just like them.
Newt Gunray.
Newt Gunray. Fuck.
They're not.
How hard is it to get you people to say Newt Gunray?
They're not fish people, but
it's
whatever.
really hard to get me to say Newt Gunray. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, I don't. I was expecting this was going to be such a camp delivery of Omega, but I really did not think we were just going to reuse the CGI model of Suket, and that was a little disappointing.
And part of, I thought this was going to bring the Time Lords back for me is that's the new. I thought it was the Ronnie. It feels
yeah.
Like it is a constant tease of Gallifrey is fine.
Yeah,
it's not
every moment from Eccleston's first episode until the end of the Smith run. I was like, oh, this will be the time they bring Gallifrey back. Like,
and it's not doing it isn't making me not care about it anymore. It's making me mad at every writer who does this. It's making me mad at you personally, the writer, because someone will do it someday, and you not doing it is just getting annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's we can't just keep going back in time to silly little recognizable pop culture moments. I mean, we can obviously, but like, we have so many other options, and I would love to bring them back. I also want to say, like, we discussed the show up to the second to last episode. And I said, I really hated the second to last episode. I had so many problems with it. I really didn't think it made a lot of sense. And one of my big complaints was like the Ronnie just feels like another master to me. Like, she feels like she's really just evil and delights in being evil, and she's coming in really wicked witchy, and she's not giving me anything at all. I don't know why this isn't just another regeneration of the master. And then, even though a lot of the explanations were flimsy, I really thought this episode brought that all back, and she so clearly is a scientist who is obsessed with science, and who has a goal. The master so rarely has a goal, and
she served smart cunt.
Yeah, exactly. And Missy just served chaos cunt, which I loved. I absolutely loved it. But like, the way that Johnson's and Michelle Gomez kill each other, because it is that scorpion thing where they just can't not do it. It serves neither of them to fuck each other up, and they do, and that's how they die. So good and so them. And I really thought we were just getting more of that with the Ronnie, but then she really had a whole ass goal. She really had a whole plan. She was very cruel to all these people, and she obviously thinks very little of them, but she's not doing this because she enjoys chaos and torture. She's doing this to bring back the Time Lords. And so I really, up until the moment that Omega comes out of the cave, I was like, man, yes, firing on all cylinders. This woman has a plan. We're doing something. And the fact that she gets eaten, her plan in no way comes to fruition. We get a shitty CGI model. This still was a really good episode to me, but I would have done things a little bit differently.
I appreciated that she was just raw, and it's something that we've seen in the character of the Ronnie before, so I like her being, imperfect. Something that I wonder about this ending, though, and whether or not this was necessary. There's the argument that can be made of, well, she can get out of it. We've seen literally the actor who is playing the Ronnie or the Master or any of these characters die and then come back as the same actor. But, I start to wonder, much like the way every finale now is so explosive and all of reality is ending, are you starting to lose the impact when you do stuff like that? I feel like you have this happen because her just escaping feels flimsier. But I'd maybe rather her actually escape than have her end like this, have it potentially actually be the end, and then just maybe if we can get her back, if we want her back, we'll bring her back like this again.
The fact that Miss Flood got out, they were so clear about the fact that the character can come back, and we don't even have to do a stupid Doctor Who explanation for why. She literally busted out a time bracelet and left. So whether we see this woman back again, or whether we just get an entirely new actor, and she says, I regenerated from Mrs. Flood. We also who the fuck knows how Omega digests things that it eats. So she could just be chilling in the Underverse, and Archie Punjab could just be chilling in the Underverse.
I love that. Actually,
and come back. Yes, exactly. But whether it's Billy Piper or somebody else, they might decide they want somebody who has a really specific kind of chemistry. How fucking funny would it be if it was Mel B versus Billy Piper?
Because we want to.
Yeah. Oh God, or Cheryl. It'd be way better if it was Cheryl. Because Cheryl actually is evil, so it would be really, really good.
That can only go in one direction.
Boom. Rest in peace, Liam.
Oh man, I'm really sorry about how hard that joke fell.
That's too different. If I had a nickel for every horrific joke you made about things falling this episode, I'd have 2 nickels. Welcome back, Phineas and Ferb. That's what should cross over with Doctor Who now that Phineas and Ferb is back. The Disney connection. Do we think so? Disney made a deal for 26 episodes. Uh-huh. This is number 21. Land of Sky and Sea, whatever, is 5 more. So this will be the end of the Disney Plus deal.
Yeah. I don't. Well, the thing is, we don't know how much money they give them.
That's true.
And
money me, please.
It's valuable content for Disney Plus. I don't know how valuable it is, and I don't know, but it's a good thing to add to the catalog. And I think we are in a place where, I have not renewed my Paramount Plus subscription this year, and I'm definitely not redoing my Peacock. I'm not gonna pay for all of these services all at once. The one that presents a solid amount of value to me is $26 for Hulu and Disney Plus. And I feel like this piece of the catalog is not insignificant for me. And again, I don't know how much they gave them. Like, so I'll be very interested to see.
Just to break
Rose Kirby. I just want to be like, man, fucked forever. We love you.
We do a lot of our streams on weekend nights. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday is usually when you can find us. And with comic broadcasts in the middle of the week, Wednesday nights usually. We cover a lot of different nerd topics. We cover a lot of Drag Race. So if you're a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, go check out our other content of that. We did a broadcast for that last night, covering the All-Stars Team Pink finale.
I just wanted to say that if you are a fan of Doctor Who, you might be familiar with Drag Race super winner Jinx Monsoon, who is a Doctor Who villain from Series 1 of the Disney Plus era.
Season 1.
You know what? Like, there's a certain point where you're just like, no, I eat my own foot. I don't care anymore. Like, I want to be able to. So the whole reference comes.
Okay, but then I want to go back to TK's point.
No, go back to TK's point. My thing is ridiculous.
I think that something that would really help Disney Plus would be if they were able to get the revival era rights. I know that that's going up for grabs soon, so I feel like if they can get just the 2005 onward, that's something that might help them in terms of, even if they just had a bigger Doctor Who library, that might help people discover it more. I put this in the chat because this is some math that I had done, breaking down the release of Doctor Who episodes that we've gotten and just pointing out the intense slowdown that we have gotten on content. And that also, I think, there's so many aspects to this conversation. It's not all about what Disney's Plus decision is. A lot of things have been leading to this.
And those numbers do not reflect or can't show what the budgets were. It's so funny. They're absolutely getting more money per episode than they ever have now. But they are spending money to turn unit headquarters into a moving gunship that can do great battle with bone beasts that are the size of buildings, which, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun with that. I thought that was so camp. And nothing I love more than Kate Lethbridge-Stewart steering a stationary object with a large pirate-esque wheel, and them shooting lasers at Dolly-esque bone beasts. Like, I thought that was just a whole lot of fun. But yeah, there it is. I mean, I love it.
Big gay party.
That building is firmly planted in the ground, and yet there's a wheel. But so fewer episodes with that budget, they could make 300 season 9 episodes. With the budget they have, they're making 8. And
they could restore the entire original series.
They could send the fucking spaceship out to go collect the lost episodes that we can only get through radio waves that have them broadcast into the universe.
I heard Saxon is in the Epstein files.
That's what we said earlier.
It's a weird double-edged sword. You get a whole lot of money and a deal with Disney, and you're not necessarily making more episodes, but the episodes are better is a weird term. I mean, like, I was always happy to use my imagination and lower my expectations, because it's funny, I was watching the Eccleston and early Tennant seasons at the same time that Battlestar Galactica was wrapping up, and I think the Battlestar Galactica looks a lot better. Just the limited CGI is better. Doctor Who kind of looks more like a Battlestar Galactica webisode in terms of budget.
Please, it looks like a Gossip Girl Tales from the Upper East Side webisode. Everybody calm down.
Yeah. So, but I still love it. I mean, it's still absolutely fantastic. For as insane as these most recent seasons go with their huge budgets, I think maybe it's worth it to do it like this. I don't know. Last season was not the best ever, so it's sort of tough to say. This one I thought really was so good. Upon reflection, I thought I didn't like the first episode of this season, but upon reflection, I thought it was a really good introduction to Belinda and the arc of the season and everything that was happening. And then I loved every single episode, including the second to last one, which I thought was really bad until I watched the last episode. I loved every episode except the Eurovision one, which breaks my heart because Juno Dawson is one of my favorite authors of current times. I just loved every episode of this season, and I don't know how much of the money was spent on Ncuti's wardrobe, but too much of it, and it's worth every fucking penny.
A lot of it, for sure.
Yes.
I don't know how to feel. I think about so much about what's going on with the state of television production. I'm mostly just frustrated because we are going to be covering, I am sure, I hope, Strange New Worlds this season when it starts this summer. We last covered it 2 years ago because that was the last time we got a 10-episode season, was 2 years ago. Ncuti Gatwa spent more time announced as the Doctor than playing the Doctor. David Tennant spent more time announced as the 14th Doctor than Ncuti Gatwa spent playing the 15th Doctor.
Preach.
And, Chris Eccleston is legendary for only playing the Doctor. Hold on, I have the number. 3 months. I have a whole thing. I write down like when the Doctor is announced, when it's announced they're departing. I have a whole thing that I write down all their times. Ncuti has been announced as the Doctor for 3 years and 1 month and played him for 1 year and 5 months.
Wow.
That is so weird. And part of what gets me is I also just really wish we could start being more upfront about a lot of things. Ncuti was saying in October, I want to play this guy forever. I'll be so mad if I don't ever get to face a Dalek.
Can I ask you why he can't? Can I ask you why the next season of Doctor Who can't be Doctor Who All-Stars? And it can't be an entire series of each Doctor, one after another, being a part of a mystery that's somehow time-locked. So we're going to get a 10 story, an 11 story, and it won't even feature 11. It'll just be Arthur Darvill, a 12 story. Like, why can't that be next?
I pitched way back when David Tennant had his little specials. I wanted each special to feature one of his different companions. I wanted a Tennant Rose and then a Tennant Martha and then a Tennant Donna special to lead into his last two-parter. I thought that would have been brilliant. Like, I'm not saying these things are impossible.
I also don't want to think that I'm telling you how to Doctor Who. You are the bigger Doctor Who fan.
I'm only speaking on the reality of what we saw. When you're quitting the show, it is and it's not with the intention that you're going to come right back. There could be a plan. Rose Tyler is the original. When Billie Piper left in season 2, they were like, she's gone forever, and there was a secret plan for series 4 the whole time. All of that was planned. So when they said she was gone at the end of series 2, that was a lie. So is there lies going on now? It was the other ending actually the one that was filmed and was the thing that was the fake out, and this was actually Ncuti was always planned for 2 years. It's hard to tell, and in some ways it matters only because it does affect what art you're making. And if it's not a big deal, then just be honest. I think I won't be mad, but it does change the context of a lot of things. Like if they've no plan for Billie Piper, that changes the context of it than if they do.
DK, I would love to know what you think about the just sort of the state of where the burden of having a plan is at. You are a fan, just to contextualize, you're a fan of Brandon Sanderson, who I think might be like the world's greatest planner ever. Like literally, like this guy, it's him and Martha Stewart. That's it.
Yeah. But also, like, for one thing, throws new stuff into his plan, like just constantly, and also like consistently updates us about I want to do this book, but I might never write it. There are stories he has hinted about, stuff that's happening in the Cosmere, his gigantic interconnected fictional universe, that I'm dying to read about. Is like very, very important to me. And before I started the story that would tell me about a world that he's considering writing, and after, he has multiple times said, I may never write this book. I just may never get to it. And so on top of having a plan, he's also very clear about like some stuff just isn't going to happen. And I really appreciate that, because if I at this point basically expect that everything that he says he is going to write is going to get done, or an act of God is happening. Like I'm still really raw about the author Patrick Rothfuss, who, when I bought into his Kingkiller Chronicles series, said he had written all 3 books. So even though the 3rd one wasn't published, we wouldn't have to worry about it. He would get that story out and it would be a complete story. Where it's like,
was it lies?
Yeah, it's lies. It's been 15 years or something. He's nowhere near closer to publishing Doors of Stone. His publisher has at times said she doesn't believe he's written a single word of it. So it's that I'm just very annoyed that I invested. As far as this goes, thankfully, Doctor Who has such nebulous continuity. It is so all over the place with so many things that my expectations about stuff that I want to see, like, again, nobody has ever promised they're bringing back Gallifrey. It seemed like it made so much sense, and they talked about it so much during the Tennant and Matt Smith runs that it made sense to bring it back. They also never said, but we'll get rid of it again. So that was also made no sense to me either. When Jodie Whittaker regenerated into David Tennant, it just really felt like, okay, I highly doubt we're doing a full new run of Tennant. I don't even remember if I knew that at the time. Like, they had already said they weren't going to, and I knew that was the case, but it just felt like, okay, this is something else is happening here, and we'll see what happens. It feels a little more nebulous with Billie Piper, because I really could see her playing the Doctor, and I can already come up with wibbly wobbly timey-wimey reasons why, and she has never gotten to. So unlike David Tennant, who got to play the Doctor, it would make sense for her to be able to. At the same time, I can come up with, it's much easier for me to imagine wibbly wobbly timey-wimey ways that she is not the Doctor, and that this is 3 specials, and then we introduce the next person, and it's Jade from Little Mix. It's obviously the best option. So I'll be okay with anything. I at this point, I just sort of would love for them to get it all out and just say, okay, this is what's happening. We're going to go make the show. I think being this weird suspension under the guillotine of like okay, are we still partnering with Disney Plus? And if we don't partner with Disney Plus, does that mean we are not doing the show anymore? Can we do the show without Disney Plus at all? Will Disney be licensing the content but no longer paying for helping us produce new content? And then on top of that, did we just introduce the new dog? You know, I remember when they introduced Peter Capaldi, and it was like a fucking event. It was like there's like a live episode. I remember watching it. Yeah, I remember watching it in my house, not where I live now, but the house we lived in before this. And just like sitting around waiting for them to announce who the Doctor was going to be.
Even Jodie, there was a special little trailer with her walking through the woods, and she pulls back the hood. Yeah.
Yep, I remember that one too. And I would like something that says like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we'll see you in 2026 or 2027 when we do it. Doesn't need to be Billy, could be Billy. Doesn't need to be with Disney, could be with Disney. I really don't love being here in this place of having absolutely no answers whatsoever. So I just hope we nailed down a couple of small details, and then I'll chill out and watch the show.
You know, I feel like one of the things that we wind up in with a show like Doctor Who is, what is the lead time? When you're talking about the upcoming Ryan Gosling Star Wars movie, of course, it needs like 17 years to get together because they have to figure out how to CGI Ryan Gosling's abs, whatever. But like, when they announced that they're going to do a new season of Love is Blind, they just need as much time as it takes those people to get horny. Done. So like, Doctor Who, though, it's way closer to the Star Wars side of things, but I think we have a possibility, thanks to the fact that Doctor Who has a long history of sort of like secret filming situations. The term Bad Wolf is an anagram of Doctor Who because Torchwood is an anagram of Doctor Who and was used as a filming term and eventually became a spin-off because it's an anagram of Doctor Who. They could pull something off like that. Kevo, you had suspected that perhaps War of the Land and Sea was actually that sort of vibe. But what I would love to see is that Disney is so behind this that we think that some unknown Disney project was this, and that we're getting a special. I don't necessarily need a series before 2027, but if I could get 2 or 3 specials in 2026, I would feel luckier than I did for a minute, because Kevo, you did such a great job. I believe putting it up in our chat earlier, you explained the number of episodes that came in each 5-year block.
Yes. Boom.
Yeah. He put it up
so
earlier, yeah.
it really is like at an incredibly diminishing rate. You know, you can see that the last 5 years to the previous 5 years isn't a huge number of episodes lost, but please remember that percentages diminish as the source number diminishes. So like, this isn't as big a loss from 74 to 57 as it might seem. So as much as it would hurt me, 2 episodes next year would be okay if it meant that 2027 ensured Doctor Who had a really strong future with the Disney brand.
It's just so funny to me, and I took it down to show my face, but I'm going to put it back up to see the number and to feel like 2005 to 2010. It felt like it wasn't a lot back then, you know, like 13 episodes per season. We as Americans had been so spoiled by the 22 episode season format, and you know, it's tough. Especially when we feel like we do constantly.
Period.
What?
Oh, I think you froze for me, but when you were like, it's tough, and then there was a freeze, and I was like, yes, it is tough. Period. Like, I was just.
It's tough when you live in an era where you don't know if a show is going to come back or not, and so you don't. That was something that I was especially sad about watching this episode and watching this whole sequence of seeing the TARDIS be dark and by itself. Like it there's a part of my heart that wonders if I was just watching the last episode of Doctor Who for a very long time. And that's really tough. It's tough across the board, though. I'm really sad if that was the last episode of Dr. Odyssey, too. I enjoyed that show. I enjoyed Home Economics, which was the show with Jimmy Tatro and Topher Grace and Sashir Zamata playing a lesbian before she even realized she was a lesbian. I thought it was hysterically funny, and we didn't know for literally almost a full year that it was over. They spent almost a full year before telling us it was canceled. That's just so weird, and it's discouraging as audience members sometimes, that it feels like so much is pinned on us and so much responsibility is pinned on us for making these things succeed. And then what are we rewarded with sometimes? You
Mostly
know?
a headache and an unfulfilled storyline.
Oh, ruined orgasms, that's what.
You know, I'm so glad that you brought up
Ruined orgasms.
pretty much. No, extended waiting on renewals. I don't know that I think that Doctor Who will ever never come back. I don't mean to be a giant tall gay. Hey, I'm a giant tall gay. But I do think that RTD is right. I do think that this show's never really done because there will always be money in the banana stand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do believe that as long as there is a bunch of Time Lords, there will always be money. And so this show could end, but it's gonna come back. Not renewing this show doesn't hurt it. Not renewing Torchwood hurt it. Not renewing Sarah Jane hurt it. Not renewing Class hurt it. Not renewing War Between the Land and Sea will potentially hurt its chance of coming back. Wait, did I say is that the name of the show, or is that the name of the Maya and Marty sketch that I think is the funniest piece of comedy?
No, I think you actually got it's the War Between Land and Sea, I think. So it is your favorite. Now we need to dig that sketch up and use it in all of our coverage for that show.
Oh my God. It feels uncanny.
I even hear what you're saying, and I think that's even part of a growing pain that Doctor Who fandom needs to figure out right now, because that was something I felt when we were saying goodbye to Ruby last season. Everyone felt like it was kind of not a great goodbye because we knew we were seeing her again next year, but yeah. And we saw Mel a bunch. That kind of is the point of Doctor Who, and what we are trying to drive toward is an idea of, as long as you're alive, you are still part of this world and can still be part of this world. And so the goodbyes to companions aren't the same bittersweet they were 20 years ago when you know you want them to come back again. That's what this world has become. So it's a different kind of goodbye.
It's what I was trying to say about bringing back all of these doctors. Why can't the next series be called Doctor Who All-Stars? And why can't each episode, one after another, I'm like, serious, why can't it be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 in a row with one common villain? Why can't that be the case? What prohibits that? If you've got a clever enough story and you can pitch that to the executives who will sign off on the budget, whether it works or not, you're going to get to produce that. And RTD is the guy who got the BBC to say, fags? Fags! And then Showtime came in and was like, no, we only do sexy David Duchovny. No. And then they were like, oh, okay, no fags. And so if RTD can accomplish all of that, I think he can be the guy to pitch Doctor Who All-Stars, and somehow Jinx will still win. I can't explain it, but she will still win. And Shea Coulee will get to the finals on a technicality. So I feel very much like this era of Doctor Who is my second favorite era of Doctor Who in memory. I'm a little bit more partial to 2005 to 2010. There was a sense of excited joy and whimsy that you just don't get from media. There was a hope. There was a, this is bold, this is different. And I think every TV show since has copied this format. Like, you know, every fandom show, every big join this has copied this in some way or another. Everything's been influenced by it, and I think that's for the better. But this is my second favorite era of the four big eras that KEVO outlined on the screen, with 2005 to 2010, 2011 to 2015, 2020 to 2016 to 2020, and 2021 to 2025. This is my second favorite ever by far. I think that these doctors are incredible, spectacular, and sure, one is in common between the two eras, but don't poke at me.
I think what freaks me out more is that in the last 10 years, there's been less episodes than the first 10 years. And thinking about that 10 years is... So this December was when Clara went off with Arya Stark in their little lesbian TARDIS. And gosh, it feels like the last 10 years have already been a wilderness era for Doctor Who. You know, they love to complain about their wilderness era from 1989 to 2005, where there was no Doctor Who on television. But God, so much of the last 10 years, from the last season of 12 on, already feels like it's just really been struggling against its own fandom at times. So I don't even know what to do with it now.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna sit back and wait. I need an announcement or something. I just need to know what's happening, and I will figure it out from there, and hopefully reserve all judgments until I watch the next thing. I'm hoping I'll be watching something.
You know, I'm so sorry, guys. For a second there, I was the silence. I am so annoying. I am more than anything excited about the possibility of freedom of non-linearity. Not to pivot to a thing that I know better than most things that I know, but you know, when you talk about Final Fantasy, early Final Fantasy had a non-linearity that made it really freeing and really exciting. You could skip towns, you could do towns in a different order, but you had the opportunity to experience time freely. Later games were so by the toy that you couldn't either be UI or BY, your choice, that you didn't have the freedom of non-linearity to explore the dimensions of the game. So you couldn't really have that sense of what is the future, what is unpredictable time. Doctor Who has always been meant to offer us unpredictable time, but has been locked in by contractual obligation and linearity. I think that what we've reached is a period of pinnacle success for an identity of a brand that sort of stretches beyond any one contract or any one actor. And while I know that I am sitting out here going Doctor Who All-Stars, I kind of am, because if anything deserves an opportunity to say, let's bring together the best of the best, it's this. I love, all of my superhero movies, but that's got to be multiversatile. This has the opportunity to do it in a way that is so organic, so true to itself, that the freedom of giving into lawlessness actually reinforces the point of Doctor Who.
And I think that's even what it is. It's about embracing the idea of joy. I think what holds back the idea of being able to do those things is clinging to concepts that are ancient now, rather than trying to embrace something new, like you're describing.
I just really love Doctor Who. I feel like that's one of the things. Like, I really love Star Trek. I really love Star Wars. I really like Stargate, but love the actors, love the show. Like, Stargate. Oh, there's a portal. Great. Okay, cool. But, like, that's not everything to me. That's really cool. That's the start of something. But they just went military. That doesn't move me. Doctor Who isn't about unit. Unit is a function within Doctor Who. That's part of what makes Doctor Who so exciting, that it has room for Star Wars, Star Trek, and Stargate inside of it. And even Beacon 23. Beacon 23 would be a single episode in series of Doctor Who, but hopefully it would be one of the ones that's so exciting. It's Midnight, my favorite episode of Doctor Who, which received a sequel. Rose Kirby, you said you're going to bed, but we love you.
I love Dugadoo. I'm not even sorry. I'm sure you don't. It's okay.
Well, what I do know is that I love whether it's Rose Kirby or the incredible folks from Eurovision. Super excited about everybody. However, y'all should go listen to all the baller remixes that have come out in the last couple of weeks. Anyway, Kevo, I love you. I love this. I love that I knew Doctor Who before you, but you're the one who made me a Doctor Who fan. Because it doesn't matter when you come into a fandom. What matters is the quality of the love in your heart for it. And thank you for really Stitch goodness meter exceeding on Doctor Who. And where can we find you?
Well, thank you for that intro. I'm just getting some links together for our new friend Rose, who I imagine, if you're over there on the other side of the pond, might enjoy our Eurovision coverage. So I'm posting those links up in the chat. You can check out tons of other links in the chat and in the comments and in the summary for this episode, because I just love oversaturating with links. So you can just look at all of our coverage, because we talk about so many fun things. And we love being here. We love doing this. I'm looking forward to covering Star Trek later this season. I just love loving things. So you can find me loving things. Take a break earlier, man. God, I can't look at my chat while I'm producing. So TK and I are going to vamp for a second. You can find me at KEVO, really. That's KEVOREALLY. And what I was just trying to say is that I love loving things. We love loving stuff on this channel. So you can check out all of our coverage where we have loved so many things over on our YouTube channel.
And I love hating things.
No, you don't. Sometimes.
So you can find me. You can find me on our channels hating a lot of things and being a hater, because someone's got to do it. It's a hard job. No, I'm so stoked at how much I loved this season. We talked at something I do hate is in the age of streaming services and on-demand culture, we have told everybody that the whole point is, it's available when you want to watch it and when you can. But if you don't watch everything right when it comes out, you are not helping the numbers. And that's part of what gets the show canceled. And I religiously watched this season of Doctor Who. I did not pirate it. I watched it on Disney Plus, but I did not watch it all week of. I had actually 2 big bursts of watching, and I just had such a blast. I just really, really loved this season. I'm bummed because I would love to see more Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. Really loved his Doctor. I really loved a gay man being the Doctor. I loved the Doctor being a not heterosexual man. I loved his outfits. I loved his energy. I just loved everything about him. But I'm okay if he's not going to be coming back as the Doctor, because I got one really perfect season and another one that's not perfect but is nothing to sneeze at and has some great episodes. That racism allegory one, well, it's not even an allegory, she ends up being racist to the end. Racist. Incredible episode. I loved Ruby. Fantastic companion. They had such great chemistry. I loved him so much. Matt Smith had always been my Doctor before this, but I really think it's Ncuti Gatwa at this point, and I'm so happy I got to have this season with him. This is one that I will absolutely revisit, and while I chug the haterade when it comes to so many things, I could not drink a sip when it comes to this season that I love so much. And should you wish to talk to me about that, you can follow me at TK Accidental on Blue Sky.
And I just wanted to say, you're not even a full hater. You're a discerning gentleman, and so you are also often a surprise. So I was really glad you got so much enjoyment out of this season.
I really was too.
Oh, I love that. And if you guys want to follow me, check me out, NICO Action, NICOACTION. If you guys want to follow the music you heard in the background, NICO Action Music, NICOACTION MUSIC. If you guys want to check out this show, don't forget to check us out on podcast form at X is for Comics or HTML. That's Husbands Talking More or Less, where you guys can find all of the amazing feeds of this show. If you guys want to follow us here on YouTube, do us 3 favors: like, comment, and subscribe. Big fans of yours. However, 3 things that you guys could do for us because we're big fans of yours. Number 1, please stay safe. Crazy spooky world out there. Number 2, please be brave because we love who you are. But speaking of loving who you are, number 3, please evolve daily because who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, incredible. But who you are tomorrow, that's the real dream. And until we get to be there with you guys when Doctor Who is renewed, we'll see ya.
And I so rarely get to use this one too.